Detecting insider cyber attacks is one of the toughest challenges that companies face today. An insider, such as an employee or authorized technician, has legitimate access to your network, making it easier to bypass some of their security defenses. Since they're not flagged as intruders, your security systems may not catch all of their actions. That's why it's crucial to understand what constitutes an insider threat and how you can prevent breaches from within. Today, I'm going to be exploring some of these risks and some steps that you can take to protect your business. Hello, everyone, and happy Friday. I'm Michael Kanet. I'm CEO and founder of iTernal Networks. And here at iTernal Networks, we believe that knowledge is power. So every Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, I go live on all of our social media pages to discuss different cybersecurity and educational topics that will help empower fellow business owners. The goal is to help these small business owners to feel more confident in your knowledge of business technology and cybersecurity. At iTernal Networks, we're dedicated to creating safe and secure environments for businesses to really do what they love, what they're passionate about, right? And staying educated on technology is a key part of fortifying your environment so that you can focus on those things that you love to do. At the end of the live stream, I'll be answering questions from the audience, so have them ready and throw them in the comments. I'll make sure to cover those at the end. All right, insider threats. This sounds scary. Insider threats are often underestimated, but they can be among the most damaging to businesses. An insider refers to anybody that has legitimate access to your company's network and data, whether it's an employee, a vendor, or even a hacker that's using stolen credentials. Since these insiders have authorized access, traditional security measures that protect the perimeter, designed to detect those external attacks, are often bypassed, making it much harder to spot these insider threats. According to a recent report by the Ponemon Institute, insider threats are getting worse in 3 significant ways. Insider attacks have increased by 44% over the past 2 years. Also, it now takes organizations 85 days to contain an insider threat, which is an increase from 77 days in 2020. And finally, the cost of addressing insider threats has risen by 34%, with breaches becoming more expensive to manage. These statistics highlight the growing threat that's posed by insiders. The longer it takes to detect and mitigate an insider attack, the more damage that can be caused to your business. This really underscores the importance of understanding and addressing insider threats as part of your overall business and cybersecurity strategy. So let's talk about what constitutes an insider threat. I'm going to break it down by the different types of insider threats that your business might face. And really there's 4 different types that we're going to be covering. The first is a malicious or disgruntled employee. Now, imagine a sales rep who's leaving the company and they decide to take all of their client contacts with them. That's a clear example of data theft. Even worse, some employees may seek revenge after being fired or reprimanded. A disgruntled employee could plant malware, leak sensitive information, or even sell their login credentials to cyber criminals for financial gain. These acts of sabotage or data theft can cause significant operational and reputational damage to a business. In some cases, it could even lead to legal ramifications, particularly if the breach affects customer data. These are all types of insider threats with your employees. Now, you may be thinking, well, what can I do about that? Well, beyond implementing robust exit protocols where access is immediately revoked when an employee is leaving an organization, consider monitoring employee behavior for early warning signs of discontent. Sudden changes in behavior, such as withdrawing from team activities, increased accessing of sensitive files, or unusual work hours, these can all be red flags that an employee is planning to leave the organization and potentially planning something malicious with those files. Consider implementing different forms of data loss prevention to log access to company data and alert you of data being downloaded or moved around in bulk or in ways that is unexpected. All right, that one is probably not the most common type of insider threat. I think the second one is much bigger, and this is the careless or negligent employee. Not all insider threats are malicious. In fact, most of them probably aren't, or they don't start out that way. The most common type of insider threat really is simply employees that make mistakes or fail to follow security protocols within your organization. For example, an employee might unknowingly download malware by clicking on a phishing email, or could use unsecured networks to access company files while they're traveling. These acts of negligence can have serious consequences, even though the employee didn't intend any harm. Another common example is sharing company data through insecure platforms. An employee might use their personal email to send sensitive documents so that they can work on them from home over the weekend. Or they might share files on an unencrypted platform, inadvertently exposing the company to additional risk. If you want to mitigate and reduce these risks, consider investing in ongoing security awareness training. Employees should be regularly educated on best practices like how to recognize phishing attempts, how to use secure networks, how to determine whether a network is secure, and how to handle sensitive data appropriately. Consider integrating simulation exercises where employees are tested on spotting security threats in real life scenarios. All right, the third type of insider threat is related to third-party vendors and contractors. They're often overlooked as a potential source of insider threats. Many businesses grant vendors or freelancers, contractors, access to their systems without thoroughly vetting them and monitoring them. These outsiders might not be following your company's security protocols, increasing the risk of a breach. For instance, a contractor might use their personal device to access your network, and if their device is compromised, it could open the door to cyber criminals getting access to your business. In fact, many high-profile breaches, including those affecting large retailers like Target, were the result of compromised vendor credentials. It's crucial that you implement vendor access reviews and policies and set clear boundaries for system access. Vendors should be granted access to only the resources that they need, and that access should be revoked immediately after their work is done. Regular audits of vendor credentials can help ensure that old or unused access points are removed. Additionally, requiring vendors to follow your company's security protocols, such as using multi-factor authentication, MFA, and endpoint protection, can significantly reduce the risk. All right, the final type of insider threat is one that on the surface you may not think is an insider threat. But it's also the most dangerous type, and that is hackers using stolen credentials. Cyber criminals that gain access to systems through the use of these stolen credentials on the dark web, right? They get these credentials through various different methods. It could be through phishing, malware, or other breaches that allow them to log into your systems as legitimate users. Your system treats them as insiders because they have a valid username and password that allows them to move through your network undetected. This is quickly becoming the number one driver of data breaches globally. When hackers gain access through stolen credentials, they can cause massive damage before being detected, if they're even detected at all. One of the most effective ways to combat this is by implementing multi-factor authentication, or MFA. MFA adds an extra layer of security by requiring users to verify their identity using a second factor, such as a code sent to their mobile device. This significantly reduces the chances of a hacker accessing your network, even if they've obtained a username and password. Another critical strategy is enforcing strong password policies and using password management tools. These tools can help employees generate and store complex passwords, ensuring that each account has a unique and secure login. Additionally, consider implementing AI-driven monitoring that can detect unusual activity such as logins from unexpected locations or devices. All right, so I've covered the 4 different types of insider threats. And I've shared some ways to mitigate each one. And I'm going to cover those kind of in summary here at the end about the proactive steps that your business can take to mitigate these risks. This is one that I did not talk about yet. Consider conducting thorough background checks during the hiring process to help identify any potential red flag employees. Look for patterns of behavior in past roles that might indicate a risk, particularly if you're hiring for somebody that will have access to sensitive data or systems. The same applies to vetting any third-party vendors or contractors. All right, the next tip, we talked a little bit about this one when we're talking about your vendors and contractors. Make sure you have valid endpoint device security. With mobile devices making up about 60% of the endpoints in companies today, ensuring that you have an endpoint management solution is essential. These solutions allow you to monitor which devices are accessing your system, restrict access to unauthorized devices, and ensure that company policies are followed across all devices. This goes for bring your own device policies in businesses, mobile devices that the business owns, as well as vendors and contractors, right? Making sure that you have some way of managing and knowing who's accessing what and from where. All right, number 3, I mentioned this one several times. Multi-factor authentication is critical, as is password security. One of the most effective ways to prevent credential theft is through MFA, which ensures that even if a password is compromised, the attacker will not be able to access the account without the second authentication factor. I will say this is not perfect. There are more secure ways of doing this than others. MFA is any form of multi-factor authentication, whether it's a text message, a phone call, security questions, right? There's other things that can constitute that extra factor. Some of them are more secure than others. So make sure that you're taking that into consideration. Also, multi-factor authentication is susceptible to social engineering attacks. So make sure your staff are trained to recognize, when those codes come in, they shouldn't be shared. If somebody reaches out and says, hey, I'm trying to reset your account, but I need your password. IT is not going to call and ask for your multi-factor code unless you're specifically already working with them on that. So just beware, multi-factor authentication is not the end-all solution, but it drastically makes it harder on these criminals. Combine that with enforcing strong password policies and using a password manager that can ensure that employees use unique and complex password for all of their accounts. That helps to ensure that if there is a breach from an online vendor that you utilize, that those credentials are accessed. If that's a unique password there's no way that criminal can say, oh, John uses this password over here. Maybe he uses that same password for his email account and for this and for that, for his banking, and then gain access to those other systems. So using unique, complex passwords for all their accounts helps mitigate that risk. All right, this one I mentioned a couple of times too, this next tip. Employee security training is critical in today's environment. Regularly training your employees on security protocols and data protection practices is one of the most cost-effective ways to reduce insider threats. Whether it's teaching employees to recognize the phishing attempts or ensuring that they understand the importance of secure password practices, proper training can significantly reduce the risk of accidental breaches. And then the last tip really is make sure you're implementing some sort of system monitoring. There are many AI-driven system monitoring tools that can help to detect unusual patterns, such as large file transfers or logins from unusual locations, or impossible logins. An example of that is, hey, they just logged in from Nevada, and 5 minutes later, they logged in from India. Chances are they didn't travel from Nevada to India in a 5-minute period of time. So these tools can provide real-time alerts on these type of activities so that your IT team can respond quickly to any suspicious activity, stopping insider threats before they can cause any significant damage. All right, that's all for the tips for today. If you are concerned about insider threats and need help putting a stop to them, we can definitely work with you on building a plan to implement a layered security solution tailored to you and your business. There's a link in the chat where you can reach out to us directly if you'd like to schedule a meeting with me to go over that for your organization. I would love to meet with you and talk with you about the needs of your business and see how I can help. All right, let's look at the audience and see if there's any questions from our live audience. I don't see anything posted on here currently. I'm trying to think if there's any other common questions that I get from my clients when we're talking about insider threats and different things. Here's one that comes up from time to time. I get asked on how, in working with third-party vendors specifically, how do we make sure that those third-party vendors are following security best practices? There are more and more organizations that are sharing their security best practices with those that they're working with. I'm seeing more and more organizations on their website where they have a security measures page on their website, or security or data protection or something where they're specifying what compliancy requirements they're following, what frameworks they're aligning with, what cybersecurity frameworks, if they've been audited, if they've been recognized as implementing any security program. And some of them are even going so far and saying, here's some of our company policies, right? We require MFA, we require unique passwords, and sharing some of those policies publicly on their website for those that want to work with them. It is perfectly acceptable to ask them when you're vetting them and determining if you want to work with them, what type of security program do you have? Do you have security awareness training? Do you have MFA? Do you have this? And find out how they're enforcing those policies and procedures within their organization. And if you don't like the answers, there's plenty of other vendors out there that you can work with as well. All right, I don't see any other questions from our audience. Thanks for joining today. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment with any question or thought that you might have. Your feedback really helps us to create content that's valuable to you and your organization. And finally, don't forget to subscribe to our channels. Hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any updates. Remember, knowledge is power, and we're here to help you navigate the world of tech and cybersecurity. If you need anything, please reach out. We would love to help in any way that we can. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye.